everyone, welcome to Niko's Mandarin Learning Studio. Today, let's talk about something Niko is always very interested, dimensions. Some of you might know a lot more about dimensions. I always found that the stories about dimensions are quite fascinating. We're all living in a three-dimensional world where it's difficult to see the other side of the story. So today, let me go through all the dimensions as well as learning dimensional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Chinese. I'll tell you my basic idea about dimension. Maybe you can correct me by leaving me comments under this video. Throughout the stories we're telling about dimension 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Niko will also teach you how to say 1 dimension, 2 dimension, 3 dimension, 4 dimension, and etc. As we all know, counting from 1 to 10, we can simply put another character after the numbers to form dimension 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Dimension is wei, wei, W-E-I, wei with the second tone, wei. Now first, 0 dimension, líng wei. 0 dimension is absolutely nothing. No space, no time. It's a one indefinite small point. It is just an idea to indicate a spot or location in the system. Now let's move on to 1 dimension. Yi wei. If we draw a point around the first point we have, which indicates the second spot in the system, and to link the two spots by drawing a line in between them, we have just created a dimension with which we just know the length, no width and no depth. Okay, 2 dimension, 二维. If we draw a second line to go across the first line we had from 1 dimension, we have simply created a second dimension with length, width, but still no depth. It is like a very thin rectangle. Let's move on to the 3rd dimension that we're all living in. 3 dimension, 三维. This is a dimension that human beings are living in. Back to that rectangle, we now give it depth to make it standing up from the ground with which he was lying in. It is now having its height or depth, just like any items that we see around us in the world. Now moving on to the 4th dimension. 4 dimension, 四维. Now let's talk about this brand new dimension. The 4th dimension is made by adding in another factor, time, into 3 dimension. Imagine that square we have just described when we were discussing the 3 dimension a minute ago. Think about that square from 10 minutes ago until right now. To connect these 2 squares from a different timeline, 10 minutes ago and now, to connect these 2 squares from a different location throughout the timeline by drawing a line to go through them, points by points. There is this 4th dimension we have just created. If the lines were drawn by actual worms, then the path the worms have created can be called wormhole. Yes, that is, the wormhole can bend time. Back to those worms we talk about. If he can see the squares from 10 minutes ago and the square right now by traveling through this wormhole, then these worms are living in a 4-dimensional space. Can we see the square from 10 minutes ago and the square from right now at the same time? The answer is no, we can't, because we're living in a 3-dimensional world. We cannot bend time. Okay, moving on to the 5th dimension. 五维. Like I've mentioned from the 4th dimension, the lower dimensional creatures cannot predict the things can happen in the higher dimensional space. But imagine this. Consider we're all living in a 4-dimensional space. We'll be able to see ourselves at 3-year-old, 18-year-old, and 50-year-old at a glance of an eye. Think about another life you might be living in which you had different parents, different home, in a different country. You are still the same person from the starting point of your life, yet you've lived a completely different lives because of the change of the whole environment. This new life of yours can be represented as another timeline, which, if it get crossed at the point where you were at 3-year-old, from your first time life. Then we have created two sets of lives for yourselves through two separate timelines, which both contains length, width, and depth. The combination of these two sets of possibilities of timelines can be referred as a five-dimensional world. Because of the limitations of our dimension, we cannot predict the exact future, as we have to go through the whole timeline to discover it. But there are some people can perfectly predict the future, like the people that we see from the movies, who can travel in time, going forward in the future or going backwards in the past and tell people fantastic stories. Those people are probably coming from a different dimension. Okay, let's just sum up all of the new words that we've learned, starting from 0 dimension to 5th dimension. Those are 零维、一维、二维、三维、四维 and 五维. That's the end of this video today. Thank you for listening me talking about dimensions. Why don't you tell me something about the dimension you understand? I'll continue to talk about the higher dimensions in my next videos. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye.